explainable, and people who believe in them. All right, all right, I take it back. And just thought to come up and share my 2 cents as well.
All right.
Let me start with a question. If you had to choose between religious dogma or scientific dogma, which one would you choose?
One of those things doesn't really exist.
Which one is that?
Scientific dogma.
Well, that's not true. Scientific dogma does exist. I'm not saying today, but because you don't know. If you are in a dogma, you wouldn't. If you believe in that dogma, you couldn't. Essentially say that it is a dogma. So, for instance, if you ask a Muslim, or any religious person, and say, "Is your religious a dogma?" they would say, "No, absolutely not." But there has been dogmas, scientific dogmas in the history. You agree?
So there are dogmatic ideas, but I don't think to me, I honestly feel like scientific dogma is kind of oxymoronic because unless I don't know the definition of dogma, to me, I think a dogma is an idea that somebody accepts uncritically. Let me look up the definition of dogma.
So, for instance,
A principle or set of principles laid down by an authority that is incontrovertibly true. Okay, so that's not really what a dogma is, I guess.
yeah, I mean,
My description was very different. But so science doesn't work on arguments from authority, right? And science isn't somebody's opinion. I saw a really great description of this earlier today, and now I can't even remember what it is. But science isn't up to any one particular person. Anybody can do it. And the way scientific information is gathered is not in that way, like at all.
so that's not true because I mean, throughout history there has been scientific dogmas, and scientists in those times believed that that theory or that belief was uh, true and scientifically true and proven and everything. So, for instance, geocentric
But it
model.
only ever got overturned by science.
Yes, exactly. But so that's my whole point. So geocentric model was, for instance, that's just one example. There has been a lot of them, but
But that's not
what
science.
yes, geocentric what we believe as Big Bang today, the same exact thing. They just believed in geocentric model. It was science. Scientists, people who it was their job, their whole career came up with these ideas and follow the star, trace the stars and the stuff, and did spend their whole life working on it and proving geocentric model. And there were people who were saying no, that's not true, and they were being essentially called. You're not, accepting this scientific fact or whatever. But then eventually it was our turn. So getting back to my question again, because there has been scientific dogmas in the history. If you had to choose, which one would you choose, scientific dogma or religious dogma?
I I just I don't think that there are scientific dogmas. I just simply don't.
There has been, I mean, what you call the geocentric model,
That
or
but that was like the scientific revolution was born by Galileo actively disproving the geocentric model. The geocentric model was a religious and philosophical holdover from like the past couple centuries of tradition. It was a dogma, and it was over it. The way it got eroded over time was through scientific evidence. And to the
so
extent that science has been wrong about things, but it was wrong about them for decent reasons because it was backed up by what they considered to be evidence, which was low quality evidence or which was gathered in they had flawed methodologies or whatever. to me, that's not dogmatic, because for it to be dogmatic, like, an idea that's a dogma is kind of like an argument from authority. And that's just fundamentally not how science works.
Yes, so that's the thing. I'm not saying that's how science work, but scientific dogma is a different thing. So, so you don't agree
Well, I
that
don't think those dogmas then are not scientific.
I
no,
mean, I think if we think of and only use the word science as a set body of knowledge that has a scope, some of the things that we used to think fit in that scope were dogmatic. If we think of how the cosmos works as a scope for a particular set of knowledge, yeah, I guess we could say the geocentric model would have fit into that, and that belief was dogmatic. But we wouldn't say that's a scientific dogma because that's not built on the scientific method. Like, and it wasn't stuck to and defended on a scientific basis.
yeah,
Yeah, you're kind I think, Simon, that was a really good point, because I'm stuck here thinking about science as a methodology, a process, a verb. And I think you're thinking of science as not exactly a noun, but a collection of ideas. And that's
no,
not like at all
that's not,
how I
no,
think
that's not.
about science. Science isn't opinions that people have. Science is the way that we form our opinions, or it's the way we gather evidence. I guess fundamentally you have to call that an opinion in a way.
That's not what I'm saying. So, science is something. So it's a scientific dogma. When I say scientific dogma, I mean the belief of people, because dogma is a sort of belief. That means you believe in something and you strongly believe your opinion is correct, and you essentially suppress other opinions and saying they are just nonsense, stupid, wrong, conspiracy, whatever. But that's
Yes, yes, but those opinions come from authority figures that merely assert that these claims are
are
true.
you
And that
saying
is
there's
not
no authority
that's
in
not
science?
where scientific information comes from.
Are you saying there is no authority in science?
No, but like there I don't know exactly what that means. There are people who have like high status in science,
Exactly. So
but
there has been a history.
the way that like scientific claims are not made, uh they're not made by authority figures in a vacuum, absent of any methodology. The scientific methodology doesn't work that way at all.
Yeah, I'm not talking about scientific methodology. I am saying scientific dogma has existed, and it's there is no way that we say it doesn't exist. So, yeah, I mean, if we disagree, that's acceptable. I just feel like, if as a fair person, if I again, like, just a disclaimer, I'm an atheist myself, but I'm a fair person. I don't want to just, I take myself out of my shoes when I look at, these arguments. Looking at it fairly, just as well as there are, religious dogmas, there can be any sort of dogma, including scientific dogma. There were ideas that were absolutely wrong. And it was Big Bang is not the only theory today, but it's the one that is extremely, so if anyone works or on any other theory that contradicts Big Bang, they will be essentially, they won't get much funding. They won't get, it is a dogma. We are in a dogma. Okay. So if you ask me,
But that's not, again, a dogmatic idea is an argument from authority. An argument from authority is where you say that you weigh somebody's claim as being more likely to be true because they're an authority figure. That's not how, even if you want to say that scientific institutions are institutions of authority, they come up with their ideas via the scientific method, which is, and so in this case, we're saying the authorities are regurgitating scientific data. And that's completely, and that's why the claims have more, are weighed more heavily. That's completely different than saying the reason the claim has more weight is because they're an authority figure.
No, so that's the point. What I'm trying to say is that, so for instance, let me say you have up there you have evolution is true, and then just one line below it, you're saying happened. Okay, to me as a fair person, these two are absolutely not comparable. Evolution, the evidence for evolution is just overwhelming. Big Bang, on the other hand, is really not that strong. And I understand, you might,
What?
if I let me finish what I'm trying to say. So if I want to kind of understand why someone would say that, I would say, okay, they want to just fight these conspiracy theories or whatever, the creationist, but that's not a scientific. That's not a fair or science. That's not good for science. That's not good for fairness. Even if you don't like some ideas, you should not use science as a weapon to fight them, even though science does not provide. Do you agree that Big Bang is not comparable to evolution as far as the evidence goes, or I don't know, like how sure you are about
I
that?
think that, so in a way, you can say that there are more individual pieces of evidence supporting evolution, because evolution has to deal with like all life on the planet. The Big Bang is simpler than that, but because it's simpler than that, I feel like it's actually more supported, because there are fewer things that we need to like look for in this case. The universe does expand. Like it just simply is doing that. We don't have any data that suggests otherwise. Do you disagree with that?
Yeah, I mean, so again, based on
What
the
does yes
evidence
mean?
that we
Yes,
have,
you disagree, or
I disagree that Big Bang is as proven as evolution.
no? Okay, so we're just doing one thing at a time. Do you I To me, all of the scientific data suggests that we live in an expanding universe. Do you think that's true or not true?
No, that's just one theory. I mean, there are other theories that
Observation. That's not a theory.
Yeah, we're not.
No,
Is
I'm
that,
saying
do
so.
you deny that evidence or not?
The evidence. So you have an evidence and you make a conclusion. Okay,
No,
the
we're
evidence
doing
is
one piece of
undeniable.
evidence at a time. Like
No,
again, whether or not the universe expanded from an initial very hot dense state is actually so much more simpler than the way organisms change over time. So there are actually comparatively fewer things to look at. So I'm just asking you, do you agree or not that all of the evidence suggests we live in an expanding universe?
no. So that's the key point. Suggestion. I can't believe in the suggestion because there are other suggestions as well. Yeah, I can lean toward one of them, but the evidence itself. If you are asking me if you believe in the
I'm
evidence, of course, the evidence
I'm
is
all,
there.
I'm going to kick you out next time you don't answer the question. Do you agree that the evidence says we live in an expanding universe? I'm not even asking you to accept the Big Bang at this point.
My personal belief, like, are you saying me personally, which theory I choose? Yeah, I think Big
No.
Bang makes more sense to me, but I don't think that's it. Like,
No, the question is simpler. The question is simpler.
yeah,
Do
We
you
live in an
believe that the
expanding
measurements that
universe.
we have for redshift indicate that the universe is expanding?
100%. No, I don't. There are
Okay,
other possibilities.
what other evidence do you have?
No,
Or
that's
what do you think is the flaw in the way they've looked at the evidence?
yeah, there is no flaw, but I'm saying there are, so scientists look at these evidence and came up with different theories, different ideas. There are other ideas and theories that are scientific as well. Okay,
There are, but they don't have the same kind of supporting evidence. So the competitor was steady state theory. Now, I'm not a physicist, so I'm probably not going to be able to do a very good job of telling you why the evidence we have supports a Big Bang over steady state. But this did happen throughout the 20th century. People looked at whether or not our universe is a steady state or matches a steady state model or not, and the overwhelming conclusion was that it's a Big Bang cosmology, not a steady state.
That's not the only one. So there are other ones as well. Steady
Like
state
plasma theory.
there is plasma, there is slow shrink or something. I believe there is one slow shrink or something like that as well. And each of them, that's my point. So for evolution, there are no competing argument or theories.
There were, but the evidence overwhelmingly pushed the others out, like Lamarckian evolution and transmutations, and what do you call it, parthenogenesis and preformation and stuff like that. The competing theories about the universe ran the gamut in the 20th century, and I don't think that there is
no conclusion. I mean, there are still scientists. I mean, again, because of the unfortunate dogma, it's not not enough research, not enough. I mean, scientists themselves they say that, but we don't agree on that. But my point is that there aren't enough research on alternatives. And it just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, again, like evolution, there is no competing theory. Evidence is there. Everything makes sense. It's just kind of undeniable. On the other hand, you can't put these two at the same level. Big Bang theory is just a theory. We are really not sure. It's not like if you talk to scientists, physicists, very rarely they say 100% it has happened. Like we just don't know. We have some ideas. And
even granting this skepticism as being somewhat valid, what we're doing now is saying that all the evidence that we have, it's best explained and most predictive of new information if we conclude the Big Bang happened. That is what best explains the evidence, and that's what predicts new observations. Could there potentially, theoretically, be some other alternate explanation that would better explain the evidence? Possibly. And should that arise, should we someday discover that, then yes, science would also lean that way. That's how we recursively self-improve our knowledge. In the light of this new idea that would better explain the evidence and predict new observations reliably, that's what we would shift to, because that's what history has demonstrated the scientific enterprise does.
Yeah, exactly. I do agree with you, but that's my point. I mean, so putting Big Bang, saying Big Bang has happened because science say it has happened, that's incorrect.
Because the data that was collected by the scientific method overwhelmingly only pointed in this one direction. It's not because science says. Science isn't a place or a thing or a group of people.
Yeah, exactly. Science, like evidence and these ideas suggest that this might be the way that universe was created. But science does not say it is Big Bang. Big Bang has happened 100%. Evolution, on the other hand. Yeah, so that's the thing. When I just feel like whenever you're talking with people, it feels like you're saying, there is no other way. Big Bang is not that. I mean, it's a strong theory, of course, but it's not the only one, and it's not at the same level as evolution. And in the other hand, like some of the other stuff as well, like saying miracles don't happen. I don't believe in miracles. That's what you should say. But saying miracles don't happen, I think doesn't make sense because by definition, miracles are not explainable. So
neither is magic. Do you believe in magic?
Yeah, exactly. So you can say, in my opinion,
do you believe in magic?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, so if I wrote magic isn't real underneath of this, that would be an epistemologically equal claim to miracles don't happen.
No, you say miracles don't happen because there is no evidence for them. But that's the whole point of miracle. Miracles are unexplainable.
So is magic.
Yeah, exactly. So
how can you be saying yes, exactly, and then criticizing me?
No, you are relying on the fact that miracles are unexplainable to say that they don't exist. But people who believe in miracles.
Your explanation for why magic isn't real.
So it is like saying, I don't know. It's you are saying essentially lie is untrue. That's kind of obvious because lie by definition is untrue. But saying that lie doesn't exist because it's untrue, that's I don't know if I can make my point. But it just does. It's not logically sane, in my opinion. Miracles are unexplainable, and people who believe in them. All right. I take it back. Come on.